Hello everyone, welcome to our RenderSpaz video tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to create explosive glass within 3DsMax, and we're going to use Octane for the first time. We'll have an Octane tutorial showing you guys how to create this glass breaking effect. Okay, we're using reference from this image here, so just to kind of go off of what the style, what we're looking for, the kind of the style, the look, and feel. We're not going to put an object into the shot, but just to kind of go by this kind of look, and we're going to come up with something close. We obviously, need to add more particles into this scene, but this is pretty much the effect that we want to go with, and we're going to show you how to do that in this tutorial. So let's get to it, and we're going to use Rayfire for our plugin, and that's going to give us our nice cool fracture effects. So if you don't have Rayfire and you don't have this plugin, you can always use a plugin from or script from ScriptSpot. There's a couple of different fracture scripts that you can use to follow along. So let's get to it and start by creating our ground. So I'm going to come over to our printers here, and I'm going to lay down a box. This is going to be our floor. We'll do something around 200 by 200. Okay, so let's just call this the floor. Okay, we'll grab another box. Get something here. Widen this out a bit. We'll about, let's see, 0.5 thickness, or actually maybe 1.5. It's better. We'll just center this to the grid. So we have something like this. We'll call this glass. And we'll just give this standard gray. Okay, and then what we're going to need to do is come over to our drop-down menu here and just go to Rayfire, and we'll open up its floater. So there we have it. So now what we need to do is fracture this glass panel. So we don't have any fractures right now, so we just need to get some cool details so that we can start to apply our physics and get something interesting. So I'm going to add our glass panel to the dynamic slot here. Okay. And then we're going to add the ground or floor to the static. So usually what we would do is go into the fragment and fragment this this panel. But what we're going to do is come over to the modifier stack. We'll come down, we'll hit R for Rayfire, and we're going to go into the Rayfire Voronii. I said that right. And you can see now we got these point clouds, these green little points. Okay, this is going to represent where fractures are taking place, or where they're going to be pretty much generated. So if I was hit the fragment button here, you can see that we can see the fragments applied and where each point is. All right, this is very spread out and very uniform. So what we want to do now is come over to our radial, okay, and we just want to see, well, this is not working because right now as we look, we're seeing that our spider web or radial effect is pointing upwards. So we're just going to have to just rotate this guy 90 degrees. But before you do that, you don't want to grab your glass panel. You actually want to come down to the drop down and say point cloud. And now we can just grab this guy and bring it 90 degrees. Like so. We're still very uniform, and we need to fix this. First thing what we want to do is scale this guy down so that the fracture happens in the middle here. Okay. But we also want to fix our uniform radial spiderweb here. We can do that by going over to our just changing some of these options, okay, in our radial distribution. We can start to get different effects. Now, in order for us to see this better, we're going to tick on the real-time So we can start to skew and change the fractions, or fragments, sorry. So move this around a bit. Okay, we change our count up a bit. So we get a lot of particles. Just be careful how much you add here, because that's where you could get some crashes. Okay, we'll get some stuff, we'll get it more towards the center. Okay, so we can see there's a lot of fragments in the middle here, and it starts to just get bigger as it winds out. Randomize this quite a bit. Okay, and then our rays, we can add some more rays. Randomize those. Okay, so we have a lot of sharp pieces, great. We got a lot of small particles here in the middle, perfect. This is going to really be a nice, this is going to give us a nice simulation because of the detail that we're adding to this. Okay, we can also just give it some twist. I mean, I don't think that really does too much. I'm just kind of going with these numbers here. Okay, so I want the middle to be a lot of particles there. Okay, so this should do it for our simulation. So we take a look at our fracture, should be quite nice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit fragment. Okay, so the fragment's finished, and there you see that we have everything all broken up. Okay, so each piece is individually broken up. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to create our simulation. So we're going to use, if we go up to the tab here into the helpers, we're going to use the Rayfire bomb modifier, or not modifier, but helper. And this is going to create a nice blast. Okay, and I'm sure if you go to the Rayfire's home site, you can see tons of tutorials on this helper. So we have the radius coming up. You can see where the radius is going to be affected by the sphere here. Okay, so we're just going to bring it in the geometry just a bit. Okay, and I just want the middle to kind of, everything else on the outside of this radius is going to be not affected. So pretty much everything else is just going to kind of hang in there. But this, most of the blast is going to come in from the center area here. So once I have this all set up, okay, we're going to check our modifier here. So at frame 20, the simulation is going to happen. We're going to go with linear range type, and we're going to stay on the spherical. That's perfect. Okay, strength's at 1, and then we should get a nice cool effect. But before we do this, we need to set up our fragments. So our glass fragments are in the dynamic slot. We need to move them over to the sleeping objects. So we're going to do this by going to the menu, select all, okay, and then coming back over into sleeping objects, menu, and, or actually, sorry, you just have to hit add, okay, and everything is moved over. Perfect. So we go to physics, and we come down to the simulation properties, and we want to add our bomb helper here, okay? So we'll just add that to the mix, and then that's going to pretty much now create our blast. So if I was to hit preview right now, let's see what we have. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to just change our gravity to about 0.5, substeps maybe 10. Let's get a little bit more realism out of that. Not too much fun, and I'll just give it a preview and see what we got at frame 20. So I'll load up here, starts to go, and let's see how detailed everything's going to be. Okay, very cool. At this point, we are, because we're doing a still, we're not going to need all these frames, but you could see it with, if you wanted to do a simulation, how realistic this could really look, and everything just starts to kind of fall apart. So this glass is breaking. I'm not gluing any of the objects together or nothing like that, but we get some really cool results. Okay, I can watch this all day. So I'm just going to pause this. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here. Very cool. So this is pretty much our blast that we're going to use with the particles. We're also going to have to add some small fragments as well, separately, to get more realism. But this is great for our main fragments. Okay, so I'm going to have to bake this out. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to cancel this preview simulation. Sometimes it just takes a bit of time because it's got to process everything. So hit stop. And we're just going to let's see if I just might push this in just a bit more. Okay, the closer this is, the more it's going to be affected. And that's okay. So let's bake this out. Very nice. Okay, we'll go to frame 35. That's good. So we'll just come down over to our end frame, or end time, at 30 or 35. Sorry. And we'll start it at frame 20. This way we can pick what looks best. Okay, I'm just going to close our floater. We don't need that anymore. Okay, and then we're just going to hide our helper here. Just right-click, hide selection. Okay, I'll take our grid off. We don't need that. And then we can get rid of our floor. We'll hide it. We're just focusing on the glass panel now. All right, so now we can now start to add our lights instead of our scene. So I'm going to go up to the top view here, and I'm going to come over to our standard primitives. We're going to use a plane. We need to get ourselves a little bit of a scene, a backdrop. Scale this guy out. Okay, actually we just need 2 there. Perfect. Convert this to an editable poly. We're going to call this backdrop. Select our edge, drag it over here, grab this edge, bring it up in Z. Okay, so rough this out a little bit here, just move that. Chamfer this. I'll give us an edge. Okay, come over and we can turbo smooth. Perfect. Now I'm not sure, we might have to widen this out depending on our camera, but now we have our scene built. Okay, so we have a backdrop. So let's add a camera. It's going to take off our realistic mode there. Come over to our camera properties. We're going to go Octane camera. I'm just going to find a nice spot here. Let's take off our angle snap. Okay, something like this. Bring this back a bit. 15. Okay, so frame 25 looks really nice. So Actually, just leave it at 15, 25. Sort of final frame. Okay, so now we have an Octane camera added into our scene. We can now start to add a Octane light. So come over to our light properties, come down to Octane, and we need the Octane light, just like you would in V-Ray. It's the same kind of effect. So if you were to add a V-Ray light to this scene right now, you would get this same effect here. Okay, so just keep that in mind for you V-Ray guys. Alright, so we're going to scale this guy up a little bit. And we're going to widen this out about the length of the plane. Okay, that should do. You might even want to bring it a little wider, we'll see. I'm going to go to about 70% on the power. And now we can set up a view. So if I actually say save frame here, we're getting at 800 by 450. So if I go back to our common tab, drop this to HD 720. Great. So we're locked in. Just want to find a good area here of the glass. Something that looks quite epic. If we see a preview here, this is what we have. Okay, so our light's in the scene. We don't want that. So we're going to have to bring this guy up a bit. Bring it up in Z. Refresh. There you go. And we get some lighting on there. So everything's looking good. And what we want to do is we want to change our kernel type. So we're going to bring this to a PMC. This is going to give us a nice, like, it pretty much acts as a global illumination in a way, but it really works well with glass and anything that's subsurface. So I'm going to stick with that. It takes a little bit longer to render, and also right now I'm rendering with one GPU. So keep that in mind. We're just doing a preview at this point. So everything's looking really good here with the glass. You can see the nice shadow. We got some nice smaller particles added in. We're also going to add some our own particles later on, but our fragments here, that there's little small breakups, and that's going to really help sell the broken glass. Okay, so let's get a material added into our shot. Okay, but actually, you know what? Before I do the material, I'm actually going to work on the camera properties. So I want to brighten up our scene just a bit. Now that I have a grayscale, I can actually work with this and get a little bit more of an even lighting throughout the image. So I'm going to bring our f-stops to 1.2. Okay, so now we got a brighter image already, quite drastically. And this way here, actually, it's pretty much all I really need to do. Bring our vignette a bit up. And I might just bring up our exposure. We'll see. But I'm going to have to play with this a little bit later. This gives me an idea of lighting now. So this is looking quite nice. I'm going to change our color background. We're going to have to add a material there. So I'm just going to go to diffuse material. And we'll apply it to our backdrop. Okay, and then we'll just get something that's quite close to what we have in our render here. So what I'm trying to mimic here a little bit. So we're just gonna something like that. Okay, we can darken it up. Looks good. And then we're going to come over to our specular material, and that's going to be our glass. So if I was to hit Control A, okay, deselect our backdrop because we don't want to apply the glass to that. Hit Material Editor again here and just apply our glass, get our glass going there. And there we have it. Okay, so this will just load up, look nice. So what we're going to do is change our camera. Whoops. Just want to close everything these days. There we go. Okay, bring this guy back up. And we're going to adjust our camera just a bit. Just get at a better angle at this the glass. Okay, so we'll just move this guy out of the way for a minute instead of closing it. Okay, and then if I go over to our tab, gotta just select our camera, get into its properties. If we come up, we can change our field of view. Okay, and you can see what's going on there. You can see we get the nice glass, getting the hits of glass here. I think it's looking really good. We got all the fragments. Okay, so everything's looking real nice. And this is just one single light, but we still got to add quite a bit of effects just to give us a nice angle of this glass being busted. Okay, so let me go to our top view here. Let's just bring this a little bit closer to the camera. We'll refresh. Okay, that's looking good so far. So right now it's really hard to tell what's going on, but as this image crisps up and we prolong the render a bit more, everything starts to come a lot more clear. But you can see we're getting some really cool glass breakage, and then we're also going to play with the depth of field as well to start getting us some more dynamic image here. So I'm just trying to get it so that I can see a little bit more of the hole. Okay. There, that's better. So you can see where the breakage is. I might want to play with the background color just a bit. Okay, because we're going to also do a lot of post work, which is going to darken this image up quite a bit. You can see now we're starting to see the break, and that's looking better. See the particles. We can see everything's looking pretty good there. Okay, so let's go back up to our camera properties. And let's start to mess with the a little bit more of the post. If I go to the post processing, I'm going to enable the bloom. We're going to get some of that going. So if we go to 50, we can start to see we get some nice glowing effects. This is really nice that Octane has provided here in the render. Also, again, speaking of V-Ray, you also get that setting as well. There's a bloom setting that you can use, but this is so great that we have the ability to play with this right in the engine here and just tweak it as much as we want. So if we want glare, we can go with a 3. Let's go with a 10. We get some glare effects, so you can see these little hits of glare. You can see this little star, and that's pretty much what we're going with here. We might want to add a little color by 0.3, and that's going to give us some color to the glass. Okay, but you can see now as everything's clearing up, the image is looking quite nice. Okay, you can see we got the nice breakage, glass flying everywhere. It's looking quite nice. We've still got some work to do, so we're just going to play with the gamma a bit. Bring this down, so we're going to make it a little bit more contrast. We're going to bring up some exposure again here, just slowly. Okay, so we start to see some more details, so everything's looking good there. Okay, our vignetting's looking good. And let's see, we also could play a little bit with our ISO. Okay, so I'm going to stick with 125. Okay, let's go with some odd pixel removal. We don't really need that. Let's bring our camera down a bit. Pretty much got to refresh our whole. Now, if I come into our devices, let's put on our both GPUs. That's going to render a lot faster. Okay. We can also change our response, so we can get different effects. If I just go with the arrow down, I can get some different looks. So I'm going to find something that really works quite nice. Okay, and let's move down the list here. It's looking not too bad. Kind of like something like that. So it's very dramatic. So I'm going to go back up. There's one I liked. This is nice. Okay, so we can actually just now add some saturation a bit. Vignette. Okay, we just move our gamma around, so 7.6. Exposure, and we might just want to go back to our diffuse color here, and let's go towards more of the green. So you can change the backdrop, and you can see we're getting different effects that way as well. Okay, so if we hit OK, we get something like this. It's looking good. You can see we got the whole glass coming through. Okay, and if we want, we can add more particles to this. Now that I'm looking at it in this angle, I'm actually really happy with the little small particles, all the little tiny stuff. But now what we want to do is add depth of field, and this is really going to change the image quite drastically. So what we want to do is, I don't even know why I just closed that again. Sorry about that. Let's bring this guy back up. So what we want to do is we're just going to play with the aperture setting. So as we bring this up, if we bring this way up, you can see we have now a nice blur, right? So if I was to use the focus tool and pick on, say, this piece of glass, it's going to focus on this glass. Okay, it's going to try to find it. And there, it's found it there. But this is very shallow, so it's not really too realistic for this type of shot. So we're going to bring this guy back down to maybe about, let's try 1.5. Let's pick this piece of glass, or actually, let's add the cracks somewhere around here. Okay, maybe I'm going to go 1.2. Pick this piece of glass here, and I want everything else to fall off back here. Okay, so that's should work quite nice. Okay, everything is very noisy at the moment, so we're just gonna have to let things crisp up. And you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a 720, and then we'll preview that. I'll pause the video so that you're not waiting through the whole entire process of the rendering. So I'm gonna do 1280 by 720. Okay, I'll render this guy, and then I'll pause the video, and we'll come back and see if we need any adjustments or not. Okay, see you guys in a minute. Actually second. Okay, so we rendered long enough that we can actually see what's going on, and as you see that we have a really nice effect. I'm very happy actually with the depth of field. I didn't want too much applied. We could apply maybe a little bit more to kind of get some of these guys to get a little bit more of the bokeh effect, or the bokeh effects. So, but I am really happy with what we have here. Even over here, you can see the little glare effects of some of these particles. You see some of them look very sharp. And as it still renders, it just gets better and better. We also get a nice fall off from the glass. You can see where the breakage is. And you can see all these little cracks and pieces. And everything is looking really nice with the detail here. And if you were to animate this and have an animation of this whole breakage of the glass exploding, you would see quite nice results. But for this tutorial, again, we're just going to keep it with an image. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Photoshop, do a little bit of post work to get kind of more in this realm of things. We have a nice little glare of, or like a but a volumetric effect, okay, coming through, and just kind of just add a little bit more touches to it. So let's get into Photoshop and let's finish up our image that we have in front of us here. All right. Alright, so now that we're in Photoshop, we can add some more finishing touches to finish up this render. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I just moved the camera just a little bit, just to kind of get a little bit more of a angle on the glass, just to kind of do some little tweaks there. Other than that, it's the same image as just what was shown in 3DsMax. Alright, so all we really need to do here is just add a little bit of the light hits that I wanted to do up in the top here. That's like kind of pretty much the volumetrics, just to give it some environment feel and just like kind of have that kind of cinematic look to it. Also, we can come over and we can look at well, we have where is it here? Image. Go mode. No, I want to go to adjustments, photo filter, and we can just add a little bit of a filter to this as well, if you like. It's your personal preference. If you want a cool or warmer look. So maybe I just want to go something like that. Okay, get the yellow look going on. And then I just want to add a new layer. Okay, we'll call this the glare. Okay, and we're just going to come over here to our gradient tool. And this is pretty much straightforward. We're just going to look for something that we can use for our glare here. Okay, so I want to use something with the transparency. Hit OK. Let's just see what we got here. This is good. Okay, so we can do something like this. We can come over to our blend here. We can just do like a soft light. Better yet, not soft light. We want to maybe go with a screen. We can play with these modes and see. Here's a linear light. That's pretty good. And then we can just kind of come into our opacity a bit and bring this down. Okay, and then maybe I'm going to use the eraser tool. Okay, you want to make sure we have a little bit of a feather to this. Bring our flow down a bit, some opacity, and just kind of paint out some of this. Now, what I want to do here is, so this is pretty much just a little bit of a fake. You know, it just gives us a little bit of just a hit on the bit up there somewhere. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So you can see that there's a huge difference here. Okay, it just really works quite nice. It just gives us that epic look, an epic, but more or less of a cinematic approach to that. And that's pretty much it. I don't think there's really much. We've done a lot of the color correction in the famous Octane tools that they have, which give us a really cool look of the glare, and you can see a little piece of the glass, and you can see the bokeh effect going on, and the little pieces. All this little detail just really helps sell the shot. So that's pretty much it, guys. That concludes this video, and you've now learned how to shatter some glass, get some epic kind of or cinematic look to this. And I hope you learned something from this video, and you can go and apply it to whatever render engine it may be. It's pretty much the same effect. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Also, feel free to check out more tutorials at www.renderspaz.com, and also leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think, and give me a like if you like this. All right, guys. Thank you.